It's kind of chilly in here. Hey. Oh my gosh. You have the flu, Kathleen? Are you starting to feel any better?
I mean, if you're going to pretend to be black, you could change your name.
My dog. If you fall asleep, it's okay. At least you're here. Okay. I look like crap. We didn't have any water here yesterday. Oh my gosh. It's amazing, like, how much housework can pile up when you don't have any water. Strep throat probably would be like something that you have where you can't use your voice. I remember having strep throat and I had a hard time talking, so maybe that. Okay. This book has gotten really interesting. We're on chapter 7 now. If you've missed any of it, hey, Linda. Oh my gosh. Why have you been up for so long? Are you doing okay?
Guidance.
Oops, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and put the book on, but we can have a chat too.
A daughter watches her mother.
We're on chapter
for
7.
clues about how to be a woman.
What do you feel? What are your racing thoughts about? Like life? What's going on in your mind?
She studies her mother's friends, her mother's style, her mother's mannerisms, and the relationships her mother has with men. In this way, a mother is a guide.
Can y'all hear that?
A mother raising a daughter is never really off duty. She guides by example, teaching her daughter to be gentle and strong, to love others without giving herself away, and to care for her female body. A mother who knows how to rest and care for herself teaches her daughter that she is worthwhile and important. Misguided mothers. Before we discuss healthy maternal guidance, it's important to acknowledge the years of damaging misguidance women have been given about mothering. Depending on the decade, mothers learned that formula was the best nutrition for their baby, and the cry it out method was the best way to teach independence. Generations of well-meaning mothers have learned to ignore their own instincts, deferring to the experts as they navigate the emotions that come with motherhood. Becoming a mother is a transition like no other, and it's tragic that the medical community and child development experts don't have current information about early attachment needs. For this reason, many mothers need better guidance to make important choices about their infants and toddlers. Frequently, mothers seek psychotherapy when their daughters start to have problems, often right around the middle school years.
Oh my goodness.
During these challenging times, mothers may quit working or try other ways to become involved with their teenage daughters who are in crisis. Naturally, they want to guide their girls. Over and over, I hear their disappointment and surprise when things don't go well. Comments like, "She doesn't listen to me," or "She's always angry with me," fill the therapy room as they wonder where their sweet little girls have gone. For maternal guidance to be effective, there must first be a trusted bond. For daughters who missed out on early maternal nurturance or protection, the important role of maternal guidance is compromised. Daughters who learn from an early age to suck up separation anxieties or defend themselves have been going it alone for a long time. Many have a hard time when a mother suddenly wants to be more involved.
Mm-hmm.
Conflict is natural in this scenario. A mother wants to help, but feels unappreciated when her efforts aren't well received. A daughter gets angry when her mother can't see how grown up she is. Mothers may demand respect with fear-inducing or controlling behaviors. This is not maternal guidance. Control
No.
teaches compliance.
I wasn't on yesterday because we lost water here at my place all after, like, we lost water at, I think, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it didn't come on until this morning at, yes, I'm coloring, at around 9 o'clock. So I was not on last night. I was too stressed out. I just kind of sat here and did nothing. But yes, I am coloring. So I don't know if you saw the ones that I was doing last time, but I can show you the ones that I finished. I did this one a few days ago. And then this is the one that I did the other night. And then I did that one the other night too. I just I like to keep my hands busy for some reason. I also got this to kind of help me keep my hands busy.
Conflict is natural in this scenario. A mother wants to help, but feels unappreciated when her efforts aren't well received. A daughter gets angry when her mother can't see how grown up she is. Mothers may demand respect with fear-inducing or controlling behaviors. This is not maternal guidance. Control teaches compliance. Compliant daughters are at risk for becoming vulnerable women without healthy boundaries or self-awareness because they learned to appease their mothers. When maternal guidance is harmful. Maternal guidance is a sacrifice of time, wisdom, and energy with no guarantee that a daughter will appreciate the effort.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, mothers who look for gratitude or affirmation from their daughters place an unnecessary burden on girls as they develop a sense of who they are. Adrienne Berdeur's memoir, Wild Game, has been a sort of literary phenomenon. A memoir that captured national attention for its gorgeously written prose and for the complicated emotional betrayal the author reveals. For us, it serves as a terrific real-life example of how lack of healthy maternal guidance can arrest a daughter's emotional development and damage her sexual innocence. The story begins the summer of Adrian's 14th year. It begins with a romance. Not the story one might anticipate from a blossoming young woman, but a drama where actors are assigned the wrong parts. Adrian is not the lead. Rather, that part goes to her boundaryless mother, Malabar. With insatiable force, Malabar steals the show, while her adoring understudy shadows every move. Through Adrian's watchful eyes, we have a front row seat to Malabar's love affair with her husband's best friend, Ben. We witness Malabar act like a teenager as her infatuation with Ben takes over. Like most of us when we fall in love, Malabar wants a witness, someone to share the excitement with. Unfortunately, rather than turning to an age-appropriate friend or perhaps even a therapist, Malabar takes advantage of her daughter, waking her in the middle of the night to proclaim her feelings for Ben. Sounding more like a schoolgirl than a mother, she pleads, quote, "Aren't you happy for me, Rainey?" Thrilled to be taken into her mother's confidence, we follow Adrian's gaze. Quote, "I looked at her face and into her eyes, dark and dewy with hope, and all at once I was happy for her and for me. Malabar was falling in love, and she'd picked me as her confidant. A role I hadn't realized I longed for until that moment." And just like that, our willing, vulnerable narrator finds herself in a love triangle. Malabar's insatiable lust for romantic distraction devours her daughter's free time as she involves her in the clandestine affair. By sharing each detail and using her daughter as a friend, Malabar creates a dynamic where Adrian feels that, quote, "the we had always been my mother and me," instead of Malabar and Ben. Through the wordless mirroring process, daughters are wired to learn from mothers. Ideally, for this learning to feel good, we want to admire our mother, to be inspired by her.
Mm-hmm.
We see Adrian's longing to be proud of her mother as she tries to justify Malabar's affair in her mind. She says to herself, quote, "Perhaps this could be a good thing. Perhaps in the fall, when school started, my mother would get dressed for carpool. No more coat over her nightgown or sheet marks on her puffy morning face. Maybe she'd brush her hair, smear some gloss across her lips, and greet the children on our route with a cheery hello, like all the other mothers." Mothers who use their daughters for friendship not only misuse their power, they avoid growing up. They take a shortcut to adulthood. Rather than face their own insecurities and risk bonding with adult women who might judge or reject them, these mothers bask in the easy proximity, vulnerability, and admiration of their daughters. Movies and literature often romanticize the idea of mother and daughter as best friends. To tell a story, Hollywood gives children adult-like personality traits. Terms like mini-me or bestie, in reference to a daughter, hide the important role of a maternal guide. But the idea that a mom and daughter could be best friends ignores the power imbalance between them.
Mm-hmm.
A daughter loves her mother, but needs her differently than a friend.
Right.
She needs her mother's nurturance, protection, and guidance, a job description way beyond friendship. Enmeshment. Adrian shares a resounding truth for many women when she explains to the reader that her mother was, quote, the most central and important person in my life, even if I wished it were otherwise, end of quote. In the privacy of stolen moments, Malabar misuses her daughter's adoration. Wild Game is a spectacular display of an insidious type of emotional abuse known as enmeshment. Enmeshment is what happens when a parent manipulates a child to meet his or her own needs.
I think this
Salvador
happens a
Munichen,
lot.
an Argentinian family therapist who developed structural family therapy, first named the concept of enmeshment to describe family systems where adult children adhere to their parents' interests or beliefs at the expense of their own. Dr. Ken Adams further adapts the concept of enmeshment as covert or emotional incest in his book, Silently Seduced. Covert incest happens when an enmeshing parent treats a child as a partner. In this way, a psychological marriage forms between parent and child, where the child feels undue loyalty to her parent. Daughters rarely identify parental enmeshment as harmful because it feels good to be singled out. Being chosen as the favorite seems like a privilege,
You're welcome.
but the cost is high.
Thank you for being here.
When a mother's care is too intense, an enmeshed daughter caters to her mother's moods, needs, and desires while losing the chance to know her own. If enmeshment describes your upbringing, I want you to know that it's normal to feel used and resentful.
Do you think that you and your mother had an enmeshment type of relationship? I don't. I don't think that I was enmeshed. I think that's how it's pronounced, enmeshed. I do not believe that I was enmeshed with my mother because she was very neglectful is the best way to put it. So she didn't really talk to me about like the things that were going on in her life. I mean, I rarely saw her sober. So I definitely don't think enmeshment is the right word to describe the relationship that I had with my mother. Do you think that it would describe the relationship that you had with your mother? If so, tell me why in the comments.
You are tired. You may feel like you've already been married, so you avoid intimate relationships. Unconsciously, committing to someone feels like betraying mom, or frankly, it's just too exhausting. If you do commit, it's common to pick uninspiring partners. In this way, you keep the primary bond with mom intact. Herein is a loss of choice. Your body is making decisions for you without your cognitive awareness. As you recognize the legacy of enmeshment, you can move away from the duty of being your mother's source and reclaim your own authority. Mirroring. Each daughter is wired to mirror her mother, absorbing her mother's thoughts, emotions, and dreams into her.
That's a really great question, Brandy. I actually got involved with working with animals because of several reasons. Number one, because I was having a really hard time connecting with other women that I was working with, and I felt like I needed to find something where I could open my own business and kind of work for myself and by myself. I also was dealing with a lot of emotional neglect from everyone in my life and felt like if I had some emotional support, even in the form of an animal and working with animals, that would help raise my emotional maturity because I had never been given any sort of emotional care for, I started grooming 10 years ago. So if you think about that, from the time that I was 32, I was like emotionally bankrupt. I had no knowledge of what it felt to be emotionally supported until I started working with animals. So that was another reason. And another reason was because I also have like anxiety, I have ADHD, and I really enjoy keeping my hands busy. And this was a way for me to be able to keep my hands busy while also supporting that emotional neglect that I was going through, and helping me through and helping me cope through some of that. Um, and it's definitely worked. It's definitely worked. I don't know that it was because of the lack of trusting people, because before worked with animals, I worked in the hospitality industry and I was really good at that. Really good with customer support and like working with people. I enjoy being around both humans and animals. I think that for me, I wasn't getting the type of emotional support that I needed from the human interaction that I was getting, that I was looking for and thinking that I would get from the animals. I do have, and have in the past had a hard time trusting humans. I think the problem that I was having in my younger years was that I was giving trust too freely to people who did not deserve it. And I was kind of trusting everyone just because, and anyone who gave me attention, I was like, yes, give me the attention, because like I said, I had been so neglected that any attention to me felt good. And because of that, I was misled, influenced to do things that I shouldn't have done, and I made a lot of poor choices. Once I started working with animals and I started receiving some of the emotional support that I needed, I didn't feel so neglected. I still felt neglected, like with humans, but because I was receiving the emotional support that I needed from another resource, the animals, I was able to open up my eyes a little bit more and learn like how to find and spot people who do not have my best interest at heart. I do very much enjoy my solitude. Whereas before, I felt like I constantly needed to be around people in order to feel secure in who I was. Like I said, I did enjoy being around people. Like I didn't seclude myself. I get along really well with a lot of different people. I come on really strong, and people really like my personality. And then after a while, once they start to get to know me, sometimes they think that I can be a little brute, I guess. A little, not rude, because I'm never rude. I just kind of say things how it is, and that can be off-putting to some people, especially when they don't have the bandwidth to accept the truth. Um, it's always been hard for me to be able to control things that I say, even though I'm not trying to hurt somebody's feelings. Sometimes things just come out, because I can't help but to be honest. And I think that that has something to do with the anxiety and the ADHD and the autism spectrum, where I just blurt things out without realizing like how it sounds. Over the years, I have gotten a lot better with that, but it was something that I had to consciously like practice, like holding back some, things and not just blurting out everything that I think all the time. So it has been something that I've been practicing on. But hey lady, I really do enjoy working with animals, and I feel like these animals really did save my life because I was in such a very bad place emotionally, mentally, psychologically, um, because there was just so much wrong all the time, and I had zero support, I had zero guidance, and I was constantly having to figure everything out on my own. And when I'm around the animals, kind of all of that kind of goes to the back. And even though I'm still doing for them, I'm still giving them what they need and still taking care of them, I'm also receiving something from them in return that I had not received prior to working with animals. And that was that emotional care, emotional support, and just the idea of, if I was sad about something, I could just let it all out, and like the dog is not going to care. And it gave me an outlet to start learning how to talk about the things that I had gone through, that I had suffered, and kind of process all of those things. Now, I'm not saying that that happened every day, but work over the last 10 years of working with animals, it's been a process of working through all of those emotions and being able to grow from the support that I had from them. And it's crazy to even say that out loud, because you're like, usually we look to other humans for that type of emotional support, but I've never received it from another human. So it didn't seem like it was the right place for me to try to find emotional support through a human. And that's why I relied so heavily on accepting it from the animals. And I really feel like they didn't cure me, but they did help me to see where I needed to grow in life. And it's been a really wonderful experience working with animals. And I do enjoy like working with them and just nothing else going on but just me working on the animal. I could be in complete silence, no music, no podcasts, no nothing in my ears, and just work on the dog. And I feel like that in itself is so therapeutic, um, to where you don't actually need to say anything. It's just going through the motions of the job. It's hard to explain, but I think if you have an animal, it might be a little bit easier to kind of wrap your mind around.
So, quote, a connection with someone they experience as wise and good creates possibilities for them to experience themselves
You
as
get
good
it.
too.
Good.
End of quote. But some mothers
It's
don't have the
relaxing, it's
tools for loving
healing,
guidance.
it's cathartic.
When a mother behaves in troublesome ways, like conducting an affair, sharing the details with her daughter, and manipulating her into participating, a daughter's psyche mirrors the experience. Such mirroring creates guilt and shame that doesn't belong to her. Wild Game paints a vivid picture of harmful mirroring as we watch Malabar lay a legacy of guilt and shame on her daughter's back. With no regard to Adrian's well-being, Malabar...
We're reading the book called A Mother Hunger, and it's about longing for the mother that you wish you had that you didn't have. This book, Katie, has had so much great information in it about like connecting to your mother in the womb and the first several years of like needing your mother. There's a lot of information in this book. We're already on chapter 7, and you can go back to my YouTube channel so that you can watch the other chapters. It's a really, really good book. I didn't realize that there was going to be this much information in it, and there's a lot more information than I expected. This book is so good. You're going to love it. I'm really good with children too. I have to be honest. I am really good with children, but my patience for children runs very thin quickly. And even though I am really good with children, I am only good with children for short periods of time. And then my mental capacity can't handle anymore. So I would say like I'm good with any one child for up to 3 to 5 hours. And then after that, I need to decompress because they just require so much from you. And with animals, it is still mentally challenging, but it's mentally challenging in a different way. This book is going to give you all the information that you need, Katie, in order to heal. I was also adopted whenever I was first born, and then like 6 months after I was born, my mother ended up getting me back. And she always like held that over my head, like, at least I got you back. But she doesn't understand the damage that is done in those first 6 months of you being alive. Like, there was a lot of damage done in those first 6 months. And then that also, like, it also went into my adult years too, because for me, it's like, yeah, you got me back, but you still don't treat me like you want me here. You know what I mean? And that's what I struggle with, because it's like, for me, yet you had already given me up for adoption. Why didn't you just leave me with the family that actually wanted me and was going to take care of me? Instead, you got me back and you brought me into this terrible, fucked up situation, and then made me feel like I was a burden in your life and like you didn't want me around. Why couldn't you have just left me with the family that actually did fucking want to take care of me? So it was always like she did me this grand favor of bringing me back into her life, when I feel like the favor would have been to actually allow me to grow up with parents who actually supported me emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and, cared about me. I don't think I've ever heard that song. She didn't. I mean, it's just like crazy. She justifies every single one of her actions as if I should be so grateful. I should be so grateful, you know? And then on top of all of that, whenever we moved here to Charlotte, because she was such a drunk, we were in and out of foster care until I was 14 years old. Like, it was a constant battle of her not being responsible as a fucking mother. Like, you had the opportunity for me to grow up in a family that was stable, loving, caring, compassionate, all the things, and instead you took me out of that environment after 6 months, brought me back into an environment with you where it was unstable as fuck for my entire life. Like, how was this situation better? I don't know. It just like, it's always kind of irked me that she feels like I owe her. I owe her because she did me this huge favor by getting me back. It's crazy. Yeah, it's the lack of accountability. And she'll say, "Oh, well, you were in foster care. At least I visited you." Like, are you fucking hearing yourself? At least you visited me?
Bar steals her daughter's innocence and stains her with infidelity. Infidelity and the lying that goes along with it generally makes a person feel guilty. But not in Malabar's case. She never seems disturbed or embarrassed by her sexual behaviors or parenting choices. She shows no remorse for stealing her daughter's time away from college.
No remorse.
Nor is she apologetic for involving Adrian in a massive cover-up for her affair. When a person behaves in shameless ways, disowned shame often attaches to someone else. Michelle Mays, founder and clinical director of the Center for Relational Recovery in Leesburg, Virginia, explains this dynamic beautifully. Quote, "When someone is behaving in an offensive or violating manner, the healthy shame that they are not connected to spills over onto the offended party or the betrayed partner, who then ends up carrying the shame of what happened." End of quote. In therapeutic circles, we call this psychological phenomenon carried shame. Carried shame. In Wild Game, Malabar has multiple victims who could carry her shame, but Adrian is the youngest and most vulnerable. The central crime in this story is less about marital infidelity than the theft of our narrator's childhood. Adrian is the true betrayed partner, much more than Malabar's husband, Charles. We see Adrian struggle with guilt and shame that doesn't belong to her. Quote, "Whenever my mother was away, purportedly rescuing Julia, but in reality staying in a hotel room with her husband's best friend, it was my job to look after Charles." End quote. Although Adrian describes taking care of her stepfather as not difficult, it was an emotional burden that didn't belong to her. Malabar put her in an impossible psychological bind. Quote, "The only hard part of taking care of Charles was the lying. At first it felt simple, but over time it became a heavy weight.
I love you too.
When you lie to someone you love, and I did love Charles, let alone when you lie so often that the lie seems truer than the actual truth, you lose the only thing that matters, the possibility of real connection. I lost the ability to connect with Charles the day the first lie fell from my lips. Over time, I began to lose it with myself too." We can see Adrian's struggle. It's as if she's the one cheating instead of her mother. Adrian carries her mother's shame, and in the process, loses her innocence. Malabar's egregious misguidance intensifies as she faces the possibility of discovery and comes unglued. Calling Adrian, who's away for college, she exclaims, quote, "Ben is everything to me. Absolutely everything. My life isn't worth living if I lose him." End of quote. The emotional enmeshment escalates to a crisis as Malabar shamelessly shares her innermost thoughts, illuminating for Adrian her lack of value in her mother's eyes. Quote, "If Ben was everything to my mother, then what was I? Was I not worth living for too?"
See?
Yet on the other hand, her love and loyalty belong to Malabar. She's afraid for her mother's life. She has no choice.
Oh,
In a Malabar
man.
trance, Adrian gathers her precious energy,
I got mine
abandons
tied
her college studies,
in
and rescues her
2011.
relentless mother. In Wild Game, maternal guidance is heartbreaking as we see Malabar misguide Adrian. Her lessons include seduction, secrets, and manipulations.
You can get them untied.
If your mother put you in the role of her friend, you may have an unconscious belief that it is your job to make her happy or affirm her mothering,
There's a place
or
in
that
North
it's up to
Carolina
you to
that
give
does
her
it.
life meaning. You may struggle with ambivalence, feeling guilty for wanting your own space. Femininity training and maternal guidance. Maternal guidance gets little cultural respect, so many well-meaning mothers are confused about modeling feminine strength for their daughters. Femininity training, or learning the girl code,
I'm so
impacts
sorry.
not only the work that women do, but also how women are supposed to behave in relationship to men. The girl code teaches women to serve, seduce, and submit to men while competing with one another for male attention. Mothers who have awareness of these cultural messages try to minimize the impact of the girl code on their daughters. By monitoring media exposure, sharing domestic labor with their partners and sons, and celebrating a daughter's achievements and talents, wise mothers do their best to mitigate harmful femininity training. But generations of maternal inheritance may pass the girl code between mothers and daughters in spite of amazing effort, quietly infecting the guidance women provide. Compromised maternal guidance shows up in myriad ways, some of which include competing with daughters for a partner's attention, carrying the weight of household duties with resentment, showing a preference for sons over daughters, escaping reality with addictive and secretive behaviors. Understandably, mothers may quietly grieve the loss of their own youth and beauty as they witness their daughters becoming young women. But daughters lose a trustworthy guide when mothers mismanage this rite of passage and steal joy from their blooming girls by competing with them. In the process, mothers sometimes teach their daughters that women can't be trusted. Cultural influence as guidance. Without healthy maternal guidance, daughters are at the mercy of cultural influences that construct femininity. Being female is biology, but femininity is a social and cultural creation based on multiple systemic factors. For generations, women learned that worth comes from being nice and attractive. And while education and career options expand, displays of anger in the workplace are reserved for men. The media is part of femininity training as the male gaze uses the female body for marketing and entertainment. Marissa Corbel, editor of The Rumpus, does a remarkable job explaining how women are impacted by femininity training as she describes her own. Quote, "On one hand, culture was telling me I had agency, autonomy, and responsibility for my body, my choices, my life. On the other hand, the larger culture was teaching me that I didn't really know what was best for me. I couldn't be trusted to say what things were. My mother knew better, my father, my teachers, my elders in general. And then, when it came to my desire, men knew or were supposed to know better than I did, except the bad ones.
I hope it goes away.
If only it were easier to know which ones were bad. Cultural programming impacts mothers and daughters, complicating maternal guidance when it comes to sexuality. As understudy to our mother, we form an internal compass that directs our desires and feelings about our body by watching her. Many of us feel confused as our body develops and we first feel sexual desire. Caught in a sexual and social double bind that asks us to be good, saintly, pure, and sacrificial, and bad, sexy, erotic, and seductive at the same time, we aren't sure how to navigate erotic feelings in a healthy manner. When our mother hasn't made peace with this double bind herself,
I'm so sorry.
we're on our own to find other guides. Fathers and daughters. When it comes to guidance, daughters benefit if and when their fathers are involved. Research shows that fathers who value relationships are more likely to have securely attached children. A father's primary job is to protect and support the mother so she can build a base for her daughter in the early months and years. Once this base is secure, however, fathers get more time on stage. Research illustrates how a father's play sensitivity seems to be a critical part of the attachment process with his child, in the same way that maternal caregiving sensitivity is. Play is the language of paternal love and guidance. Paternal guidance, in the form of praise, helpful limits, and shared time, increases a daughter's confidence. Studies show that if a father enjoys his daughter and encourages her natural strengths, she may be more inclined to see herself as capable. Research suggests that daughters whose fathers who are involved with homework and encourage their daughters to take challenging courses have higher levels of
I
sociability
totally know
and
that.
higher level of school performance and fewer behavioral problems. Interestingly, daughters of fathers like these are also more likely to have high-paying jobs as adults. Unfortunately, misguided parents sometimes compete for their daughters' love and devotion. They miss the important truth. Each parent is necessary and has a unique purpose. They can't both be the favorite all the time. It's helpful when parents take turns being a primary guide. Daughters love their parents or caregivers unconditionally and want them to be happy. But when parents are uncertain of their purpose and look to the daughter to choose one of them over the other, that's unfair.
Mm-hmm.
If your parents put you in a position to choose sides, it's very likely that you are living with a haunting sadness from being put in the middle of their insecurities. Part of your healing is letting go of this emotional burden that was never yours to carry. Paternal sexual guidance. Daughters learn about sex from both parents. Growing up, a daughter watches how her father treats her mother to learn how men behave with women. When a father takes time away from his hobbies and work to spend time with mom, a daughter observes that mom is a priority to him. When a mother and father enjoy each other, play together, and show affection with one another, a daughter has a powerful buffer from the dominant cultural lessons outside the home. But parents are products of our culture and the ideology that permeates our sexual landscape, as we discussed in Chapter 5. As such, it's not uncommon for daughters to see their fathers judging and commenting on the way women look. Fathers who are unaware of their impact and responsibility for sexual guidance may bring locker room talk to the dinner table or flirt with waitresses in a restaurant. Girls learn from such fathers that feminine power comes with sex appeal, that being sexy gets attention.
Mm-hmm.
Overt signs of sexual double standards like these teach a daughter how to behave, perpetuating the dominant culture's sexual messages. Guiding girls toward healthy sexuality seems like an impossible task in a world where pornography is available with such ease and privacy and is not necessarily seen as problematic. A colleague recently shared with me how her client exclaimed, quote, "I've been watching porn since I was 12. Now I finally get to be in it."
Oh my God.
End of quote. A client of mine, Maria, who has a PhD and a busy career, told me that the most power she ever felt was when she traded sex for money in her early 20s.
Wow.
Quote, "He would never admit it, but if my father could have seen me work, he would have been proud." End of quote. Maria's sense of how her father might feel about her sex work may or may not be accurate, but the message is clear. Sex, men, and power are linked. Sexual shame. All women in a patriarchal culture are highly susceptible to sexual shame. But the legacy of harmful sexual messages may be intensified for marginalized groups of women. Women of color and lesbian women who don't fit into white heterosexist norms become targets for unwanted sexual attention in media and movies. Lesbian women are often forced to actively face their sexuality in ways that heterosexual women are not. For a lesbian,
It
the
really
issue of
is.
maternal guidance is layered with complexity as she looks to her mother to understand herself. Mothers and daughters have enough difficulty navigating the topic of sex, but add homophobia to the mix, and it's a recipe for mother hunger to fester and pollute a daughter's core self. When sexual identity threatens belonging, daughters understandably may withhold the truth from their mothers to avoid possible rejection. Daughters who can't turn to their mothers to talk about sex and ask questions for whatever reason may maintain a secret life, which is not only lonely, but also a breeding ground for addictions and other harmful behaviors. Mother hunger and loss of maternal guidance. As a daughter, you may have missed out on the guidance you needed from your mother. Maybe you learned that it wasn't safe to be different. You may have picked up on your mother's hidden hope that you would be just like her. To avoid criticism, you learned to fold the laundry like she did, fix your hair the way she wanted, or stay out of her way when she was stressed. You learned to keep your opinions to yourself if they were different from hers. Or perhaps your mother needed you to rise above her and become something better. You had to be amazing so she could feel better about herself. She had little patience with your natural mistakes because your behavior reflected her mothering ability. Her unlived life was yours to fulfill.
I
If you
know, mine
identify
too.
with
I
having
hated
had
that.
poor maternal guidance,
I can have one now, Katie, because there's literally nobody in my house that is going to read my diary. But even both of my ex husbands would read my diary. So I got to the point where I didn't feel safe, like journaling my own thoughts because everybody was going to try to find my diary and read it anyway. Like, that's such an invasion of like your privacy, and that just drove me bonkers. Like, stop reading my private thoughts and then using them against me. So
you may
manipulative.
often feel anxiety because your behavior and your achievements don't reflect your true desires. Perhaps your life feels like your mother's resume builder instead of your own journey. Life without maternal guidance can lead to a few of the following characteristics: excessive caretaking in relationships,
I do
deep
that.
insecurity,
I had that.
difficulty making decisions that reflect your own desires, chronic guilt and a belief that you're never enough for your mother, constantly comparing yourself to other girls and women,
I do that.
dissatisfaction with your body image and appearance, loyalty to abusive people, usually your mother or people like her, over-involvement with your own children, with periodic abandonment to take care of your mother instead. Without healthy maternal guidance, it's difficult to fully integrate and know your value and worth. Dr. Christian Northrup writes, quote, "Our culture gives girls the false message that their bodies, their lives, and their femaleness demand an apology." End of quote. This makes belonging a challenge. And more than anything, we want to belong and be included among other women. But along the way, we may discover that belonging means hiding our strength. To fit in, we play small. In a culture that devalues qualities such as empathy, collaboration, and connection, owning our attributes can feel like a liability. Part of the hurt and longing of mother hunger is the search for your mother's power. Healing means you claim your own power in ways that feel healthy and constructive. Becoming the authority for your life may require you to find new guides and role models, people who inspire you. Healing mother hunger brings you the opportunity to rebuild damaged dreams and goals, and to no longer apologize for being a woman. Please refer to the Finding Guidance exercise in the supplemental PDF.
We're not going to go into chapter 8 because chapter 8 is a much longer chapter. It's a little over an hour long, but we can have a little bit of a chat right now if you guys would like, just to go over like what we read just now and how you feel about it and how you feel like it relates to your own personal life. There's a lot in this book that I didn't realize I was going to relate to. So I am glad that, we're sitting down and we're all reading it together and having a conversation. It is so on point. You missed the first few chapters. Katie, if you go back to the beginning of this book and you listen to the first few chapters, you're going to be like, "Oh my God." Because it literally is like taking the thoughts out of my mind and putting them in a book. I'm so sorry you're sick, Kathleen. I hope you get better quickly. I can't imagine being at home and not feeling good for 2 weeks. I would probably go stir crazy. Like I said, it's hard to I don't know that book. I'll add it to my list. It's Losing Your Pounds of Pain. Okay, I'll add it to my list. What was I saying? It's not that I don't trust people anymore. I feel like I have learned that trust is not something that you give freely to people right when you meet them. I feel like trust is something that you have to earn from people. Whereas before, in my younger years, like I said, I just gave everyone trust. I just trusted that everybody was a good person. Very naive, very very stupid, I think, to trust people when they haven't given you a reason to believe that they are trustworthy. I'm going to look it up right now. And I feel like now that I have grown, I understand that trust is something that you gain over time of consistent behavior. You have to be seeing consistent behavior in that person in order to gain my trust. I don't think it's in Amazon, so I see it. I don't know that I can get it on Audible. Yeah, it looks like you can only get it in paperback. No other features offered. It's only $1 though. Like I can get it for $1. Oh, $6. So that's not a lot. Download Libby. I don't know that I know that app. Yeah, when I'm at work, definitely try to catch up. Tomorrow's going to be a long day, but I'm definitely going to get on live tomorrow and we'll start on chapter 8. Because, like I said, chapter 8 is a long chapter. Chapter 8 is going over third degree mother hunger. And if you didn't get to listen to the first several chapters where it talks about what mother hunger actually is, go back and listen, because there's so much information. Like I will probably have to read this book 3 times in order to really process all the information that's actually in the book, because there's so much information. Like I should have been taking notes when I was reading a lot of the books that I started reading when I was like on my self-help journey or like self-growth journey or whatever. I was taking notes. I was pausing the books and like typing notes into my notes app. And that way I could go back and refer to the notes. But I haven't been doing that with the books that we've been reading lately. And I feel like that's probably not been a good idea to not take notes, because I learn a little bit better when I'm able to like hear what's being written, and then not putting it into my own words, but taking the cliff notes. That way I'm able to process and remember, because sometimes it can be hard for me to retain information. Yeah, it's really hard for me to trust people now. Like I said, I gave away trust too freely. I was very naive, very very eager to just think that everybody was a good person, that everybody was like me, that everybody was kind-hearted, that everybody was honest, and that's just not true. It's not. Not everybody is like me. There are people out there who have very vindictive mindsets, very manipulative, very harmful, and that will take advantage of you if you allow them. And if you are too kind to somebody who is manipulative, they are going to take advantage of you, because that's what manipulative people do. They take advantage of people's kindness. So it has been a long journey of learning and just recognizing that there are bad people in the world. There not only are there bad people in the world, but there are people who go out of their way to harm you. And they get close to you so that they can find out information about you, so they can use that information against you. And that's what I had to learn the hard way, is that a lot of people were getting close to me to use my pain, my trauma, and my goals and my dreams and my ambitions against me, to make me feel less than. Hey, Bajor. So it's been a process of like awakening and learning that The first person that I need to trust is myself. And in order to trust my own instincts, I need more time with a person than a one-time visit and then all of a sudden, we're besties. I need to be able to get down and communicate with you and like really get to know who you are as a person before I let you into my inner circle. I'm definitely taking much more cautious time with being friends with other people. And I can say this right now, I don't have any friends. I don't. There are very few people that I trust in my life with my energy around my kids. Like, because if you would hurt me, what makes me think that you're not going to do something to hurt my kid? If you would disrespect me, what makes me think that you're not going to disrespect my child? You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to talk bad about me behind my back, what makes me think you're not going to talk bad about my children? If you're going to talk bad about me to my children, why would you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of things. I have a lot of an interview process before I let people get close to me. And that's why I don't have anyone close to me. My children are the closest friends to friends that I have. I talk to people. I'll be cordial with people. I'll say hello, but it's very rare that you're going to see me actually going out and like hanging out with a person and like inviting you over to my house. I don't think I've had a friend over to my house since I moved into this apartment 5 years ago. Like, and before that, it was probably like 4 years before that. So I've definitely taken a lot of the mistakes that I've made, and I've learned from them and learned that not everybody has your best interest at heart. And actually, the people who want to get the closest to you usually want to get the closest to you so they can do something to hurt you. Yeah, it's been a long process of elimination and getting rid of people who are harmful to me because, like I said, I was just so eager to have people in my life that I just allowed everyone to be my friend. And because I allowed so many people to be my friend, I had to learn how to cut them all off when I realized that they actually weren't friends at all, that they were frenemies, that they were people who were posing as friends so that they could cause harm to me. Or when they want something from you. Like every time I hear from you, it's because you want to tell me about your drama. Like, I got my own shit going on. I don't want to hear about your drama. Or if you need a ride or you need money or whatever. Like, I'm not the person that you call when you need somebody to bail you out. Like, I no longer am enabling other people's behavior. If you want to be a friend and actually have an emotional connection, okay, great. But if all you're doing is calling me so that I can help you out with something, then that's not really a mutually reciprocal relationship. It's just you using me. I've been able to like remember my dreams a lot more. Yes, friendship is both ways. In order to have a friendship, you have to be able to like communicate with the other person and you have to help both. Like, it's both of you helping one another, giving and receiving and giving. You know what I mean? Like, it's you're reciprocating the same energy. And now that I know, if somebody is giving me bad vibes, you're definitely going to get those bad vibes back. Like, I'm not going to be nice to you if you're being a dick to me. I'm giving you the same energy that you're giving me. That's just what it is. If you want to be kind and respectful, okay, that's what I'm going to give to you. But if you're going to be abusive and using me and um and harmful, then that's what I'm going to give right back to you. Like, you want to be disrespectful, I'm going to be disrespectful to you. You can always email me, Linda. You can email me. And in the email, I don't know if you have Facebook, but in the email, if you have Facebook, you can give me your Facebook and I'll friend you. That way we can message on Messenger. It's been a long process of elimination, though, because when you're young, you want to have like a crowd of people to hang out with. And that's what I assumed that everybody had. And I think that the more you surround yourself with people, the less you are able to be alone with your own thoughts, emotions, sadness, and whatever. Like, we all have shit that we go through. We need to be able to process that with ourselves, by ourselves, and not look to a group of people as a way of escapism from our own issues and problems. I have a friend that's been a best friend, but I wouldn't really consider her a best friend anymore because um, something happened years ago. Like, I talk to her, but I'm very cautious with the information that I give to her. I don't consider her a best friend anymore. I consider her an associate. And that's because um we lived together for a short period of time, and something happened. We got drunk, and her boyfriend or husband at the time tried to tell her that him and I had sex, but I never remembered that happening. And in my mind, you are upset with me because you think that I had sex with your husband that I don't recall ever happening. Yet you're not upset with him for taking advantage of me while I was under the influence of alcohol and was unable to consent. So, and if you're so willing to just believe him without actually having any evidence that that's true, then that kind of tells me that you're not an actual friend. So once I actually like put that together, I was very, very cautious about, giving information to this person again and like letting that person close to me. Because I feel like if you were an actual friend, you would have been all over him for being like, why would you do that to somebody who was clearly under the influence and unable to consent, kind of thing, you know? Why would you get mad at me when I didn't even know that it potentially happened? Do I think it happened? No, but that's not the point. Yeah, send y'all can send me emails, and cuz I don't think you can like direct message from YouTube, but you can send me an email and I'll give you my Facebook information, and then from there we can do like Facebook Messenger. I thought about creating like a Facebook group for all of us to go in. I just don't know what to call it yet. I had to learn that I needed to become my own best friend. I needed to be the one that was giving myself the support that I needed. Okay, if everybody likes the idea of a Facebook group, I'll try to come up with a Facebook group name, and I'll have it linked on my profile. Actually, I won't have it linked on my profile because I don't want trolls coming in there. Only the people that actually like want to learn and heal and come together as a group to support one another. Those are the only people I want in the group. That's what I think too, Brandy. That's what I think too. And then she ended up believing him, which is fine. Like, that's your husband. You want to take his side, that's all cool. But don't pretend to be my friend after that. I think so. And I think that's what kind of the universe is trying to steer me more towards, is helping other women like we're doing right now. All right, well, I'm going to go because it's already 8:30. I need to take a shower. I'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we will start with chapter 8, which is over an hour long. And I think everyone's going to really like that. I'll figure out how to do the Facebook group thing over the weekend. I probably won't have time until the weekend. Yeah, send me an email so we can direct message one another. Y'all have a good night.